What should I talk about today? Oh my goodness, I have a list of things that I would like to talk about, and I am so reluctant to any form and structure whatsoever. So algorithm finds it very hard to see what I am, to put me in a box. Everybody has ADHD and nobody has time to figure that out and take their time. But I think that something's happening. I hope that something's happening with social media where we're all fed up with people shouting at us from the screen, because that's what I feel it's happening. Everybody's an expert. Everybody has this like, oh, this is what you have to say. This is what you have to do. This is like, do this, do that, you know? You know what you're doing wrong? This is what you're doing wrong. You're not supposed... Let's just chill and find pleasure in slow content. This is what I've been attracted to recently. You know, sometimes content is just a picture of a tree moving with the wind. I love this. I think this is valuable content. Okay, let me see. So I press record and now I have to run with it. Okay, I'm gonna say something. Since the dawn of time, I have been obsessed with the idea of legacy and leaving something behind. I was never a kind of person who was interested in having children. That is not something that was on the table, ever. That has not changed. That is just, I'm very confident and happy with that stance. However, I always was intrigued by and you know, moved and motivated by idea of legacy. I wouldn't perhaps use that word, but in practice it would be about leaving something behind and being known as something making a difference in the world, hopefully for the better. And so that would manifest in different ways. I would always want to write a book. There is now one in the making, which is great. So that's going to happen, it seems like. So the younger me would be proud of myself. I am proud of me. However, there are other ways. It feels like it's not enough to just have one artifact. I would like to make a difference. I would like to make an impact. And with the development of social media, it just seems like everybody's making impact, everybody's visible, everything is happening. And I don't even know when. And I feel kind of left behind with how easily it seems to come to some people. But of course, it's such a bias because we only see those who have succeeded by nature of it, right? But it's very tempting. I've always been intrigued and interested in and amused by social media, of course, and then exhausted and frustrated and disheartened and depressed too. But I've always been here in one way or another. And at some point, I've always used to say, what do I talk about? I didn't want to, you know, have that structure of a very snappy content. It just never feels authentic to me. It feels so clunky and so fake. Just fake. And do we need another fake person on here? I'm not suggesting that anyone who does this is fake, but there are people who have a real talent of delivering fast content. And then I've seen people who ramble on, and they're loved for that. And I suppose there'll be a bit more in that camp. And at some point I thought, whenever I tell stories and people want to hear them and want to hear what I've been up to and what I've done in life and where I've been, and oh, you should write a book, and oh, you should, read audiobooks, oh, you should tell a story, like use your story for social media. And I don't know if that's massively narcissistic and massively self-indulgent. But at the same time, there is part of me that just wants to tell my story. And I don't know where that's gonna take me. Do you want me to start from beginning? Like back in 1989 when dinosaurs still walked the earth? I don't know. I can start there. A lot of what I write about and a lot of the narrative of myself comes from childhood. It feels like it always goes there. Whether we start about dreams where mom and dad show up in different forms, impact of my brother who shaped my or took part in shaping my interests, who was my first best friend. Is it in nostalgia of memories and a kind of idea of safety and a sense of wonder? Is it in therapy where still working through trauma that happened? Childhood has such a power over us, but it can also be empowering to know that, to work with it, to draw inspiration from that, to draw lessons from that. And although I do not want to see the world as only lessons, like as if there's nothing else, we're just here to learn, isn't that another way of bypassing a certain terror of reality where you give it a certain explanation, a reason for suffering, a reason for things being fucked up, and actually maybe it is what it is. It's not such a ignorant philosophy. It's hard though, and we by nature are meaning-making creatures, so it's only natural. We love to find a solution and find something and then judge ourselves for that. But yes, things seem to be coming back to childhood very often. For me, these memories are very alive. They're very tangible. My access to my childhood is very tangible. I can kind of walk around like a room in my palace, like a chamber with childhood. I can still touch my childhood home walls. I know what they felt like. We had 2 homes. We moved when I was maybe 5 or 6. So just starting kindergarten, just before primary school. And we just moved kind of down the road to a few blocks away. So I still stayed in the same neighborhood. It was strange. I think my childhood has with it a lot of magical quality, the sort of sense of wonder and full of inspiration and kind of resources really for feeding that spirit of wonder. There were books, there were holidays, there was a dog eventually, there was sibling, and there were different holidays like Christmas and stuff, and there was beauty, there was art, there were different activities, So there was a, it looks like I have an ear, that's kind of cute. So there was that, there was that kind of stimulation of imagination. There were things around that would suggest that, and yet there was some kind of block to fully express that. Like to fully actually express that wasn't allowed to the extent that is desired. My parents had this weird attitude towards things, which I suppose they had their reasons for that. They like to overthink things and to reflect on things. Like, okay, we'll think about it. We'll think about it. You want something? We'll think about it. We'll think about it later, until it would never happen. Unless I took charge and I forced that to happen eventually as a bigger kid, throwing tantrums to get something I wanted. Or finding out that it's better to ask for forgiveness than permission. And sometimes paying a price for that. But there was a certain lack of enthusiasm for different ideas and creative impulses and creative needs. And I remember that narrative of my parents wanting me to decide what I wanted. And I had different ideas. I wanted to try karate, and I was swimming, and I wanted to dance, and I wanted to learn this and learn that, and oh, my friends do this, can I try this? My brother does this. Whenever my brother would do something, that would add a little bit more weight to it. Like I could follow his steps. I could do something if my brother did that. Sometimes I would be allowed to do something if my brother did that with me. So then he felt kind of pressured into things. But and we shared a lot of interests, so that was fun. I did like that. But there were other things where I just wanted to explore, and they would say, oh, but this is something you have to start when you're really young, when you're little, when you're like 3 years old, like learning to play piano, learning. Why? So I was 8 years old. It was already too late. 10 years old, already too late. No, it's like, what's the point, And then, if you really want to get good at this, like you have to do it for a long time. And then, you have to really sacrifice your whole life to be a pianist or to be an artist or to, So like, no pressure, right? No pressure. And then I would change my mind because, I would be under this pressure of what do I do? I want this, I want that, and I haven't, but I'm not really super good at this straight away. So maybe I'm not talented, and therefore what's the point of me pursuing that? So I would change my mind, and, I'm a kid trying things, and they would want me to decide, okay, but is it this now then? Is it that? Is that it? Are you sure? Are you sure you want to do this now? So yeah, I would panic, and I'm like, what am I sure of? I'm 13. I don't know who I am. So I think that didn't help, because that stayed with me for a long time. This kind of doubt and this kind of looking at things very seriously. What's the point if I'm not good at this straight away? It wasn't meant to be. Getting discouraged, getting disheartened, comparing myself to people who started earlier, especially in things like dancing. That was, of course, a lot of pressure is kind of written into that world, when, especially if you look anywhere beyond casual entertainment, So yeah, that pressure of deciding, sticking with something, and it definitely chased me into adulthood. And to this day, I was talking to a friend recently about different careers that I have, and I was looking for some advice around marketing, because there used to be this pressure to be specialized in something, to be like you have one thing and one thing only, and this is your niche, this is your specific thing, and all your clients know you just about that, and you know and then later, a few years later, something like, oh, I am a multi-talented, faceted. You can be an entrepreneur and a creative who does different things, and stuff like that. So when I was explaining that, oh, I do this, and I also do that, and I also do that, and he told me, like, you tell me as if you were embarrassed about this. Like, what's wrong with, like, you are doing all these things, that's amazing, that just makes you a bigger, richer person. You have all these skills and all these different things you're good at. So yeah, it's a process to embrace that, and I think I'm in a good place right now with all these different facets, although social media and marketing can be funny about that still. My camera just did something. I don't understand what it did. So I know that thinking about childhood and how it shaped us can be quite a triggering subject. It's not easy for everyone. It's not easy for me either. There's a lot of... It wasn't just a beautiful, magical time. Yeah, but nevertheless, I feel like there is a lot of wisdom, there is a lot of treasures that can be found there, and a lot of inspiration that can feed into our current creativity, and perhaps we might find certain answers to things that bother us today. It's certainly not my intention to be endlessly just staying in that space. I just personally find it fascinating how memories work, and just the existence of time and our personal story is fascinating to me. It's something I'm especially interested in, but it doesn't have to be the case for everyone. It might be just a little place where you go every now and then, or dip your toe and get out once you get what you need. But it's something to just think about. So I hope that gave you perhaps encouragement and inspiration to look into your personal story, and I will see you around. So yeah, I think